the pandemic, COVID has changed a lot of things for a lot of businesses. I would say most businesses have changed, and people have had to change their lives, the way they work, probably the way they sell. What are you seeing with your clients, with sales, as it relates to the pandemic? And the purpose of the question is, not only what are you seeing that's changing, but like how are people taking advantage of it in a way? Like how can you capitalize on the fact that your decision maker is sitting at home on, doing Zoom calls all day, not, managing the floor or whatever the case is?
Yeah. I think it's a great question, because it's something we've been spending a lot of time on, talking to clients. So there's a couple of things that I'll throw out there, probably more than a couple. Some of our clients have done really well. They're just in a good space to do well during the pandemic. We had one client really take a hit. We had another client have a slowdown. So it's hitting everybody a little bit different. So I think we should all be aware that, everybody's experience is a little bit different. And I say that because I have some folks that do some cold calling for us. And one of the recordings that we listen to is they called a suspect, we'll call it. And they said, hey, before we get started, how are you dealing, during this COVID challenge? And the owner of the business said, well, how's everybody dealing? Business is bad. Well, no, it's not. And we've got to be aware that there still are pockets that are doing well. So a couple of things, we got to be aware of that. Second thing is, and I brought that story up for a reason. If you go back 6 months ago, I would have trained every person that I work with. And I think Sandler collectively, can't speak for everybody, but you would hear us say, if you were calling a prospect, don't ask how they are, because you probably weren't sincere about it. But there's been a shift, I think. You can say to somebody, hey, Coop, how are you doing during this pandemic? And because we're all in that, and if we now give Coop time to respond, I'm listening to calls where people are giving 60 and 90-second stories of how things are going. So I think that's a shift. We should be asking people how they're dealing with things. How is business going? How are you doing? Because we're all in it together. We did a culture workshop yesterday. We've got a company that we're very friendly with. They sell solutions for employee culture. And right now we're doing 3 topics with them. It's managing your remote workforce. And we actually brought that up on the call to the CEO of that company. And he said, absolutely, in this time, if you think about the world of selling, people buy from people who they like and trust. But before that occurs, there's actually, and don't hold me to this because I'll get it wrong, but Maslow's hierarchy of needs. People have a need to be heard, understood. You guys probably understand it better than I do. So in today's challenging times, that's even more critical. So more critical for remote workers, more critical for your prospects. And asking that question is actually helping to get people's needs met. And it really, so his point was, because I had brought that up as a question, he goes, that's absolutely a game-changing way to approach a new prospect.